Not to roll. It is May the 24th. It's Memorial Day weekend. Here on Coffee with Frankie, I'm Frankie from Flatbush. This is Coffee with Frankie on a Sunday Memorial Day weekend. And before we get started with the show, we're going to play a little theme song. Yeah, why not? Called the Frankie from Flatbush theme song. Enjoy.
Frankie from Flatbush rides the Brooklyn line. Got a swagger sharp like a vintage wine. Everybody knows his name from porch to stoop. Hustle and dreams in every loop. In the park he struts, hits the handball wall. Echoes hear the stories when the shadows fall. Got 1,000 tales and a comforting grin. On the streets of Flatbush where legends begin. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near. He's got the rhythm, everybody cheers. Corner talks and sidewalk chalks his fame. In the Flatbush breeze you'll hear his name. Underneath the subway hum, the magic's real. Frankie's moves got that electric feel. From Atlantic Avenue to the urban hill, Flatbush Frankie's giving you a thrill. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go.
It's Sunday. It's Coffee with Frankie. If you're in the chat, let me know if you can hear me okay. We probably might have a lighter crew today because it is Memorial Day and there's not a lot going on with the Jets. This is the Coffee. I'm the Frankie. Now, we will have some stuff happening this week as OTAs resume, and so we will get some news out of that. If you're in the chat, let me know. Say hello. Let me know if you can hear and see me okay. Always got to check the technology. Uh-oh. There's a problem with these comments. We had it on Friday. These comments are not coming through, and that is problematic. Let me see something. Refresh this, but why is that happening in the first place? All right, send some comments in. I see Metatrends Mark is here. Joe Mike is here. Put in more chat because I can see it on the YouTube chat, but it's not coming through on OBS, so I might have a problem here. Let me know. Let me know. Send some more chats through so I could see what's going on. Man, some problem with this. Application. Oh, you know what? I can chat publicly. Test. Well, there it goes. Stopping and starting. All right, so I might have to, I don't know, I might have to refresh that application every single time. Stopping and starting. Good rainy morning. So Taurus is here. Good to see Taurus, NYJ. It's not raining down here, tell you that much. All right, so that seems to be working now, so that's good. We had a little problem with it on Friday night as well. So hopefully these chats just keep coming in because otherwise we got a little problem with our software. But there's always something with this stupid software, I must say. All right. Joe Mike. All right, Joe Mike is here. Joe Mike is a member of the Inner Circle. You could be a member of the Inner Circle if only you would click the join button down below. For $2 a month, you get to hang out with cool people like Joe Mike and Phil Adams and all sorts of other people. Harry W., for example. Metatrends Mark, you name it. All the legends of the chat join the Inner Circle, and you could too. $2 a month, join button down below. Now, what Joe Mike is talking about is this right here. We got a column. We got ourselves a column. Everybody wants to have a column, you know. Rich Samini has a column. A lot of people have columns. Why can't Frankie have a column? All right. Well, we got a Substack right here. Frankie from Flatbush.substack.com. And this week we wrote about tight ends. Yeah. Making tight ends sexy again. Yep. So in this article, I go through and talk about the fact that, you know, Green Bean and I started talking about 13 personnel a long time ago. And why don't teams use it more? Well, now the NFL has finally caught up to me and Green Bean, and now they're using 13 personnel more and more. I go through this, and then I apply this to the Jets and say, all right, well, what does this mean for the Jets? And we've, put a lot of draft capital into the tight end position recently, and I think this is why. Now that we have Frank Reich here, I think he's going to utilize these tight ends, 12 and 13 personnel, which really gives, if you have the right type of tight ends, really gives defenses a problem. It's a real problem. So we write about that, and especially when we have somebody like Geno Smith. Here's a play that the Seahawks ran about 1 million times. I've seen it on film, where they fake the handoff, it's play action, then they boot Geno out and they leak either 1, 2, or 3 receivers out with him. In this case, he actually has 4, 5 if you count this guy in the middle. But this way he has many options, and it's really difficult for the defense to deal with this because you have to play the run. They run it that way 1 million times, and then one time they fake it, roll him out here, and becomes and that play works almost all the time. It's like 85%. Then I go into prospect watch. What about this Lenoris Sellers? Is he just going to be another busted prospect, or could he actually revive his draft stock? Well, this is a great video that I link you to that explains it all in detail if you want to watch some film study with the Film Guy Network on Lenoris Sellers. He could be the first overall pick in the draft. He could be a 4th-round pick. He could be a UDFA. Anywhere in between. All depends on his development this year. So that's the Frankie column called Chemtrails. It's at Substack. Frankie from Flatbush.substack.com. Now, when you compare that column to this column, you tell me which is better. Here's Dick Chimney wearing his ESPN polo because he's a good company man. I'm a company man. I love working for Disney. My name is Rich Samini. So he goes through all the stuff that happened this offseason. And here's the key questions that he came up with. Well, similar to old Frankie, he said, what will the Geno Smith-led offense look like? And he goes who we acquired and so forth and so on. Now, in the past, Reich leaned heavily toward 11 personnel, but that was when that was in vogue in the league, and there were reasons for doing that. But it does say that we're going to go with more 12 personnel, which is true. And I take it to the logical next step of 13 personnel, which is where the cutting edge coaches like Sean McVay and others are going. Then he uses some quotes here. And he says the number one priority is fixing Smith. You don't need to fix Smith. He's good. And then what about Cade Klubnik? So this Cade Klubnik thing is very interesting. Because with Cade Klubnik, the thing we have to keep in mind is sort of like what the Giants did last year with Jackson Dart. And what we need to be looking for as fans is there a lot of positive reporting coming out of the Jets about Cade Klubnik? Similar to last year when you heard Connor Hughes talking up Jackson Dart via the Giants. In other words, he was reporting the Giants were thrilled with Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart was making great progress. Jackson Dart is killing it in the meetings and this and that. And then it turned out they were thrilled with him, and Russell Wilson experience lasted 3 or 4 or 5 games or whatever it was, and then here comes Jackson Dart, and bada boom, bada bing. Well, same thing with Cade Klubnik. We want to hear really positive things coming out of these reporters, coming out of the Jets, about Cade Klubnik. That would be a very good sign that he's making progress on his KPIs. And you're starting to see some of that. Klubnik looked good at the recent rookie minicamp, Cimini reports. And then he had some negatives. But that is important. Then he talks about some other stupid stuff. So I would say my column is better than the Cimini column, but Rich Cimini, by being a company man, I will wear the ESPN polo because I'm a company man. Look at these awards behind me. Frankie, you don't have any awards for journalism. What are you talking about? He makes millions of dollars, and I make not that. But more importantly, let's also go to another column. This one by Connor Luong over here at the Jets X Factor. Apparently, Connor Long has converted to Asianism. So that's good for him, Connor Luong. But says here about a quote that Cimini has. And this is, so he's reporting on the reporting. This is another thing that other columnists do. They report on the reporting. So Connor Luong reports they are going to hold off on the older veteran guys, the backup, and let these guys fight it out. And they are really high on Cade Klubnik, said Cimini. So again, this is the second thing that we've now seen. Out of Cimini, he's one of the 3 consequential beat reporters, the ones that actually matter. It's Rich Cimini, Zach Rosenblatt, and Connor Hughes. We can hate them all we want, but they are important in terms of their reporting because of who they work for, basically. ESPN, in the case of Cimini, they are really high on Cade Klubnik, said Cimini. They're going to give him a runway here. So these are important. These are the important things. It says a lot of dumb shit, but there are little pieces of things that Cimini will say that are actually important, because this means this is what he's hearing from the Jets, and that's what's important. He doesn't go out and say it, but there's no other way for him to know this other than to get it from the Jets, right? So this, again, is similar to Jackson Dart, and that's what we want here. I mean, shoot, man, if this guy could just exceed all expectations, that would be fantastic. But so far, this is now the second thing from a beat reporter saying the Jets, the Jets are kind of coming out and saying, without saying, that Klubnik is, progressing really well. Doesn't mean he's going to play this year. He might play, he might not. It depends. But so far, so good on Cade Klubnik. So that is where we are in terms of reporting, to be honest with you. I think the Cade Klubnik thing is probably the most newsworthy item around the Jets at the moment. Can he possibly, show why he was so well thought of a year ago? as opposed to now, this year's draft, where his stock dropped, obviously, significantly. Yeah, people forget. People were talking about this kid like he was going to be the number 1 overall pick, potentially. And instead, he went in the 4th round. So, obviously, some talent there. So, these are good signs, I would say. And don't forget, we now have what I call the Quibbit in place. Maybe not the most catchy name in the world, but we have a Quibbit. What is a Quibbit, Frankie? You might ask. Well, the Quibbit is the Quarterback Brain Trust. QBBT, the Quibbit. And we never really had a good Quibbit before. At least not, recently, not since, 2011 or so. So now we have Frank Reich and Billy Moosegravy and Darren Mougey, who did play quarterback at San Diego State. We have the Quibbit. We have a good quarterback brain trust. And so the hope there is that these guys can really, number one, spot the kind of talent that they want and then develop it over time. So we'll see if it works out, but that's the hope anyway. And I would say so far so good. But, we'll have to see how it goes. Hi, Karate is here. He says good morning. Flatbush Dre is here. Mark Shissetti is here. All right. So let me just check my dealio. All right. All right. So this one, that's basically the main things going on in the news. So in the chat, let me know what else you want to talk about. Did I miss something? What else is going on that is of concern to you in the chat? It is Memorial Day, and so may have a smaller crowd shuffling in, as they say, than normal. And people may not be as energetic as they normally are, because most people are going to have off tomorrow, maybe a little drinking going on today or yesterday and stuff like that. We do have the Knickies, the Knicks, rolling over the Cleveland Cavaliers, and started to take a little bit of an interest in the Knicks. They're an interesting team. They might make the NBA Finals, so that'd be a nice story. Yeah, for the Knickies. We'll have to see how it works out. Sticks Curse 69 is worried about our play calling. Now, Sticks over here, he's a member of the Inner Circle. I wouldn't worry about it, Sticks. Frank Reich, as I've explained many times, Frank Reich is a good, solid play caller. We don't have to worry about him. He's got a track record. If you give him a good quarterback, he gives you a top 10 offense. I believe Geno's going to be a good quarterback. Now, if Geno stinks and he's washed, right, that's possible. Maybe Geno's just, his career's over and he stinks now. Well, it's possible. If that's the case, no play caller can help you with that. So our play calling, as long as Geno is good, solid, which I believe he will be, and as long as you protect him, he will be good in my opinion, but I could be wrong. He could totally stink. But as long as he's good, then Frank Reich, his history is he gives you top 10-ish, 12, 13, somewhere in there, offenses in terms of scoring. So, and if Geno's really good, like when he had Andrew Luck, for example, you could get a top 5 offense. But I don't think Geno's going to be elite or anything. I just think he's going to be good. And then on defense, we have way better players. Number one, we got way better coaching, Dunbar, Bowling, and then Glenn calling the plays. Glenn is a good defensive play caller, so there really should be no concerns about play calling. Now, if Geno Smith stinks or we have a lot of injuries on defense or something like that, then the play calling is not going to matter because you need to have good players for the play calling to really matter. And on offense, you need a good quarterback. It's really a combo. So don't worry about that. Hi, Karate says, go Knickerbockers. Yeah, we got these Knickerbockers. They're up 3-0. And you had dumb Travis Kelce chugging beers, rooting for the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Cleveland Cavaliers. the Cleveland have a beers because you got to nurse your stupid loss. Right? He's sitting there with, what's her name? And Swifty over there. And he's chugging beers at the game like the doofus that he is. And they lose. And they lose. And they didn't even look like they were really trying, to be honest. I mean, the Knicks have looked very efficient, shooting the ball very well. I'll tell you who I like on the Knickies. I like that Jalen Brunson. That's who I like. Oh, you like the best player on the whole team, Frankie? Yeah, but I like Jalen Brunson because of his style of play. You know, Jalen Brunson has a very unique style of play. You know, as we start talking about basketball, that's how dull it is in Jetsland right now. But Jalen Brunson has a fun, unique style of play to watch. Takes a little bit to get used to understand how he plays. But man, once you get used to it, it's like he is fun to watch, bro. My opinion. You know, the rest of the guys are okay, doing normal things. But Jalen Brunson's sort of a unique type of player, so I like to watch him. He's fun. And they had the legends there last night as well. You had Patrick Ewing, all my favorites from my youth, were there cheering on the Knicks. You had your Patrick Ewing, probably my all-time favorite Knick. I used to be a big Knick fan in those days. Not anymore. But, you know, the Patrick Ewing, John Starks days, and Starks was there, and then they got Allen Houston. He was there as well. All these legends, you know, that was back in my youth, when I was a Ute, you know. So that was kind of cool. As opposed to Travis Kelce just showing up, chugging beers with his girlfriend, you know, laughing at him, you know. Flatbush Dre, if the Knicks are relevant, the JETs are next. Yeah, we've been this patient for all these years. Yeah, so might as well have a little bit more patience. But yeah, I think, as I've described a few times now, I think we're in for a 8, 9, 10 win season, and then I saw a couple of people write that there's no quarterback plan for the Jets, and that's completely untrue. I don't understand how anybody could look at our situation and say there's no quarterback plan. We actually have 3 options for quarterback play, in both the near term and the long term. Geno Smith either works or doesn't. If he works, he's going to get a contract extension. And then, in the meantime, that's option 1, and that's more of a near-term option. He's not a long-term option, but then the long-term options kick in. You have Cade Klubnik that we're hoping to develop. We just talked about him. Hopefully, we can sort of have him situated right, as opposed to the way we handle Darnold and Zach Wilson. Hopefully this way to do it maybe is the way to do it for us. Where he sits behind the veteran, no pressure, and he just develops at his own pace. And because he's not the starter, maybe that's the way to really do it. And he's also a 4th-round pick, so there's not the pressure of being a high draft pick like Darnold and Wilson were. So there's that. That's option number 2. If that works, great. If it doesn't, then what? Well, what if the first 2 options don't work, Frankie? Well, then we got 3 first-round picks next year. And we just root for the Colts to lose, and the Cowboys, but it's more likely that the Colts will be a bad team than the Cowboys this year. And in that case, we either have a really high pick where you can get one of the guys, whoever emerges, could be Lenora Sellers, could be, whoever's the best next year and who comes out. And we do that. That's option number 3. I mean, I don't know, for our situation, I don't know how we could be situated any better given what our choices were. I think we did the best we could to give ourselves, a chance. You never know. Klubnik might turn out great. He might turn out to be a backup. He might turn out to be a complete and total bust. We don't know. But we have him and we have Geno. Maybe Geno will be great. Maybe he'll be good. Maybe he's completely washed and he just stinks on ice. I doubt that. And I say that as someone who's watching probably more Geno Smith film than anyone. But it's also possible, no matter how much film you watch, it's also possible that with age, maybe he's just going to completely fall off and be washed. And then none of the past really matters, right? That's always possible. So the way I see it, we really have 3 bites at the apple for this particular regime to get the quarterback right, finally, after all these years. So anybody who tells you there's no plan at quarterback for the Jets is just flat out false. Now, they might not like the plan. They might not like Geno, and they might not like Klubnik, and they might not like the prospects for next year, I guess, but I don't know how they would say that at this point. We got to see how the year goes. As we've learned in these past few years, all the projections and stuff like that are almost always wrong for these young quarterbacks. People said that this year, 26, was going to be a huge year for quarterbacks. It was not. It's basically a 2-quarterback class at the top there. And there was a lot of questions with number 2, Simpson. But, so I don't know how people could say definitively what the 27 class is going to be. But there are a lot of options that you think and hope could be. But, I mean, how can anybody really know with Lenora Sellers? I mean, if you go watch that video that I linked to on Chemtrails, they do a really good breakdown of Lenora Sellers. And the whole idea really is it depends. It depends on his new offensive coordinator. It depends on his weapons. Can they protect him? Their offensive line was terrible last year, South Carolina. So how the heck can you judge Lenoris when he just had no offensive line? He had no time to do anything. And so hopefully they got that fixed, but we don't know. They did get new players in, and they're trying to protect him, but we don't know how it's going to work until we see it. So that's a guy right there. That's one guy that could be the number 1 overall pick, or he could be a 4th-round pick, or he could be a UD. Well, he's not going to be a UDFA. He could be anywhere in between, a 5th pick. Somebody's going to take him because of the talent level is just off the charts. But it's just a lot of outcomes that could happen. That's a high variance of outcomes. You have no idea. This is the same thing with Arch Manning. Arch Manning very clearly could be the number 1 overall pick easy. It's very easy to imagine that happening. However, if he has the same exact year as he did this year, he's probably going back to school because he wouldn't have developed enough, really, to be the number 1 overall. He would still get picked pretty high probably, but it would be in his interest to go back to school. If he had the same exact year he just had, then he should go back to school and develop more. And with the money they're paying him, no reason not to, really. So every one of those quarterbacks that are supposed to be great, I could poke a hole in and say, here's how they're not going to be great or why they're not going to be great. Every single one. Karate says Brunson is the Knicks. Well, he's definitely their leader, right? In terms of scoring, but the interesting thing is they have all kinds of things that you need. Like they need to go in the post. I notice there's not a lot of post play these days, like we used to be with Patrick Ewing. But they do have Karl Anthony Towns. If they need to do that, they can. All right. But they also have, the Mitchell Robinsons of the world to come in and just play defense and foul people. And they also have a bunch of 3-point shooters to come in and shoot the 3-pointers. And but yeah, he's definitely the leader. When they need something, just go to Brunson. Get Brunson the ball, right? Back in the day, it was get Patrick Ewing the ball, if you remember. Some of you may not be old enough to remember old Patrick Ewing. But he was my favorite. Oh, I loved Patrick Ewing so much. But back in the day, whenever there was a problem, you just say, get the ball to Ewing. He'll figure it out, right? He'll either get fouled or score. Now, this team, it's get the ball to Brunson. Get it to Jalen Brunson. He'll figure it out. I called him on X yesterday the cerebral assassin, right? He's the cerebral assassin. And I just love the way he plays. It's just so unpredictable. It's like he makes people look ridiculous on defense. They try to defend this guy. He's like back and forth. You don't know if he's going lefty, righty. You don't know what's going on. He's going to scoop it. He's going to shoot it. It's a lot of fun to watch, I got to say. I am enjoying it. I am enjoying it. Whereas before, I think I tried to get back into the Knicks before they had this Brunson fella. I don't know when that was. And it was just boring. There was nothing really interesting to watch. It was like pick and roll, 3-pointer, pick and roll, 3-pointer, pick. It's like, this is boring. But Brunson, I enjoy watching him. So Karate says, with our O-line and running backs, it will be hard for Geno to fail. I think so, Karate, and not to mention the weapons. So some of you may not really understand what we've done. But with Kenyon, Sadiq, and Omar Cooper, plus Garrett Wilson, Mason Taylor, Adonai Mitchell, we have so many weapons. Somebody's going to be open. And again, unless Geno just completely falls apart, which I don't see happening. I've watched this guy on all 22 so many games now. I think it's over 30 games. When somebody's open, he hits them. This is a guy who's led the league in completion percentage before. You don't do that without being able to make quick decisions, which he does. It's clear. When you get guys open, and with so many guys, how are people going to cover Kenyon Sadiq? 4-3-9 tight end. Just as one, that's one weapon. Garrett, we all know. Adonai Mitchell, we all know he can be good at certain things, not everything. He's going to have a great role. And then you have Omar Cooper as a guy who you drop it off to, you break 3 tackles, get a first down. What are we talking about? And if all else fails, just get it to Brees. I mean, how can Geno really fail now? It's possible. He just sucks now. Like whatever I'm watching on tape is just going to vaporize because he got old and terrible. Okay, I guess. But that's the only way. This guy, when people are open, he gets them the fucking ball, that's called playing quarterback. But again, maybe he's just so old now. I mean, he's 36 years old. He's not 46. You know, we saw a 45-year-old man come on a football field off the couch. You know, this isn't the old days. You know, Brady played to 45, and Rodgers coming back 43. We just saw Rivers come back at 44, 45, whatever it was, 46, whatever he is. Geno's 36. People are acting like he's 47 years old. But we do have to acknowledge the 10 or 15%, I guess, chance that he's just completely washed, and the Raiders' experience was because of Geno. Even though they had no offensive line, no weapons whatsoever, the offensive coordinator got fired during the year and was calling plays that they didn't even prepare for that week. Do you understand? Chip Kelly was calling plays that weren't in the game plan for that week. What? I've never even heard of this. Chip Kelly was so out of his fucking mind, he was calling plays that they didn't have in the game plan for that week. Do you understand how crazy? And Geno had to deal with this. Oh, Christ's sake, man. But all that being said, it is possible Geno just totally stinks now. And everything I'm seeing on tape is just a mirage. It's possible. I mean, we have to acknowledge the possibility. It could be. You know. But guess what? Even if that's the case, and let's say Geno just stinks on ice for, 6-7 games. He's just terrible. He's just not the same player. He lost it. He completely stinks now. Well, guess what? Then Cade Klubnik comes in. And then it's all about, okay, we're not going to the playoffs. We're not going to win a lot of games. All right. Well, but we do have Cade Klubnik to evaluate, so that's exciting because he's option number 2. And then that probably means we're losing a bunch of games, even if he plays well enough. And then we're going to get maybe 2 really high. Maybe what if we have 2 picks in the top 5? Because let's say the Colts stink and we stink. All right. 2 picks in the top 5, and either Klubnik isn't good enough and we're just take one of the kids out of the draft, or he's really good and the rest of the team stinks for some reason. And then we have 2 picks in the top 5 and we don't need the quarterback. We just stay with Klubnik and Geno's the backup. We signed Geno to a small deal to be the backup at least. What? Geno can't be a backup? Age 37, 38? I mean, come on. This guy was a Pro Bowler with the Seahawks anyways. Come on. Josh Sweat. Probably not, no. Let's look it up. Josh Sweat. If somebody's looking to trade Josh Sweat, it's probably not because he's super awesome and amazing. Josh Sweat. Well, he was pretty good for the Cardinals. Now, I don't know why would they trade him. Yeah, I remember him from the Eagles. Then he went over to the Cardinals. So this guy is 30 years old. He's still pretty good. Okay. So this guy's better than I thought. He played 540 snaps last year. The problem is that he's really a 4-3 defensive end. And if we wanted a guy like Josh Sweat, we could just sign Cam Jordan. So, like, why not just sign Cam Jordan for just money? Because I don't want to give up any draft picks next year. So it's going to have to be a 2028 pick. Do they want that? I mean, are the Cardinals really just completely tanking? I guess they are. Well, the problem for him is, it's the contract, of course. It always is. But we could manage it. The question is, do you really think he's going to be dominant in his age 30 and 31 season when he has a cap hit of $23.5 million? We could absorb it, but for a 30, 31-year-old, you'd have to look. I would just sign Cam Jordan for just money instead of giving up capital. Myself. Because Cam will cost you half as much. It will give you more flexibility in the out years. And I don't know. Josh Sweat is 30 years old now. Could have a decline. I don't know. Like everything, it depends. If they just want to give him away, we could take him. If they're just looking to dump the contract and they'll take a 2028 draft pick for him, like a 6th rounder or something, and they're just looking to dump the contract, like a 2028 6th and a 2029 5th for Josh Sweat. That'd be fine. But I wouldn't give up anything significant. He's all right. But boy, I guess the Cardinals are just giving up, huh? This guy does put up pretty good sack production, though. He's a good player. But, I mean, are the Cardinals just really just giving up? This is so hard it's so annoying to see a team just give up. So, it depends. It depends. Metatrends Mark says, I am expecting revision to the mean, meaning the offense and defense will be better, but special teams will be worse. Okay, why? We have a really good special teams coach, and we have really good special teams players. Why would we revert to the mean? Reversion to the mean really is about if you have the same exact. Reversion to the mean is really about if you bring back the same unit, but you had a lot of luck last year. That's not really our situation. We basically rebuilt the whole roster and the coaching staff. And we didn't sacrifice anything on special teams. We'll see about the kicker, but I'm talking about the core 4 units. So reversion to the mean is really when you've had excessive luck. We didn't really have excessive luck. Or you just had some circumstances where you played poorly. Our circumstances for playing poorly on defense was our roster sucked and our coaching sucked at the same time. That's a bad combo. So we improved the coaching and the roster is much better. So the defense should get better, not because of reversion to the mean, but because the players and coaching are better. And then the offense, we already had a top 10 running game, and now we're adding Geno, who should be a good quarterback. So we should improve on offense because we added weapons. We improved the left guard position. We brought back all the running backs, and we improved the wide receiver and tight end room. And Geno should be, again, unless he just some reason falls apart, which I don't foresee at all, but it could happen, I guess. Even if you have a bad Geno, he's going to be better than what we had with Fields and Cook and Taylor last year. And we still had a top 10 running offense. And now we have a more seasoned play caller with more experience, and we have all these creative guys around him like Seth Ryan and the Stanford Smarties. So we have much better circumstances. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to result in improvement. But I see no real reason why the special teams would revert. We weren't lucky with special teams. We were just good. We had a good special teams unit coached by a really good coach. Like, those Daniel Jones years with the Giants, that was like remember when Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll made the playoffs that one time? They got really lucky that year. How do I know that? Well, they had a point differential of about 0. When you have a point differential of 0, thereabouts, you should be a 500 team, but they were way above a 500 team. That tells you that they're getting lucky. They're getting some lucky bounces. They're winning a lot of close games, 1 point, 2 point, and things are just going their way. That would tell you they're going to revert to the mean because their mean is their point differential. They're going to revert backwards. And then they did. So for many different reasons, injury being one, but another one being Jones just isn't that good, in my opinion. So that's when you have reversion to the mean. When you're having an outsized amount of luck, there's always some luck in sports, and people don't really want to talk about that, but there's always some amount of luck. But if you're just having a lot of luck involved, like the Giants were that particular year, and we call them fraudulent teams. This is a fraudulent team. There were 2 fraudulent teams in the NFL that year. One was the Giants and one was the Vikings, and they played each other in the the playoffs, which was funny. So yeah, and that's how you know. I mean, I think point differential kind of tells you what you are. If you could look at all these advanced statistics, EPA, DVOA, you could look at all that, but really the point differential generally tells you what you are. And if you're around 0, you should be a 500 team. If you're way above 0, you should be a really good team. If you're way below 0, obviously you're going to stink. So that's how we know kind of like who's lucky, and then we kind of discount that luck the next year because you're probably not going to have 2 years in a row of extreme luck, right? It's not how luck happens. Right. Karate says the Cards are tanking for Arch Manning. Well, maybe they are, but that's a very stupid way to run your franchise. Now, they have LaFleur there, and they have Asen Fart, and maybe they're very stupid people. So if you want to tank for Arch Manning, number 1, there's no guarantees coming out next year. Number 2, there's no guarantee he's going to improve off of this year. And number 3, there's no guarantee, even if you try to tank, that you're guaranteed to get him. I mean, I guess you could just lose every game. That's hard for me to believe. So in other words, you could try to tank, and then somebody like the Jets or somebody still ahead of you, or the Colts, and then now you don't get Arch Manning. So you've tanked for nothing, if that's the theory. So maybe that's happening, but what does that also say about Carson Beck then? Why did you burn a 3rd-round pick on Carson Beck? Why did you burn a 1st-round pick on a running back? Maybe they are stupid. I mean, maybe these are the stupidest people in the history of the NFL. They burned a high first round pick on a running back. Jeremiah Love is great, but it's a running back. And then they burned a 3rd-round pick on Carson Beck. So if you didn't believe in Carson Beck, why aren't you building up the team? Oh, because we want to tank. Well, I mean, so you're just going to have a terrible team, waste all your draft picks, and wait for the quarterback, and now you're going to have a team that sucks, and the quarterback's going to come in and be expected to do good when the whole team sucks? Yeah, it's not a good idea. Not a good idea. I think what the Jets are doing is really the way. But look, if we could get Josh Sweat for cheap, hey, because you're a bunch of dummies, all right, great. Take a 2028. I mean, would they take a 2028 5th and a 29 6th or something like that? I'm not giving them any 2027 picks for Josh Sweat. None of them. 0. But if they want, to just get rid of them. Joe Mike says, how's our cap space currently? Oh, yeah, we got plenty. We're good. Let's just make sure. Let's just see what we got. So over the cap space, what you want to always look at is effective cap space. The Jets are down to 10, so we don't have a ton. Maybe that's why we're not getting Cam Jordan. But you can always structure these contracts where it's more in the out years. But certainly a safety we could get. Linebacker we're not getting, as I've said many times. Center we're not getting. And kicker we can easily get. So out of this list by Joe Mike here, I would say safety and kicker are the most likely. But if we wanted Cam Jordan, we would just give him for example, we would give him a 2-year deal where this year he makes, $1 million and then next year he makes way more. So we only have 10.5 though effective, but that's about the middle of the pack. Oh, let me just show you guys it. So we're not getting all this stuff, Joe Mike, as I've said a million times. But here we are down here. But we have 92 players. Some of these teams, like the Lions, only have 88, according to this. But you can see where some of these teams are in trouble. Dolphins, Chiefs, Giants. This says they're this says they're over the cap. This can't be true. Well, this is effective cap space. So this means some things are going to come into play, and they're probably going to have to get rid of some people because you can't be over the cap right now. And you can see the left-hand column is cap space, the right is effective. So some of these teams probably haven't signed their rookies just yet. So they might have to get rid of some people, but or do some configuring. Now, if we really wanted to sign somebody big, again, this number does not matter because we can always reconfigure Garrett Wilson's contract, Jamian Sherwood's contract, Demario Davis's contract. Who else did we give a contract to? Brandon Stevens' contract. All those contracts can be converted, and we can create about $30 million more dollars in true cap space. So we have some money here to get some small things done like kicker and safety. But if we ever need more and if we wanted to acquire Josh Sweat, for example, who has a big contract, then we would need to do some conversions, which are easy to do, and create some more space, which we would easily do. So we have money to do whatever we want. Money's never a problem, as I've said many times. Money is never a problem, not for the Jets. Metatrends says no kicker, fair. Sharon says there's definitely bad luck. Well, we know that, right? For us. For us, there's been nothing but bad luck. But yeah, so I would say out of these people here that Joe Mike wants, I would say defensive end, I would say we want Cam Jordan or nothing. Like, I don't think anybody else moves the needle, really. He's out there. You can get him. He has a relationship with AG. But it's okay if we don't move on that. The things we really need are safety and kicker. It seems like we could easily get one of those, and we might, maybe this week after OTAs, they do some evaluations, and they say, all right, because we don't know what's going on with the defensive backfield. We don't know who's going to start on the outside, who's going to start on the inside. What's Minka doing? Is he the nickel? Is he the free safety? What's going on? So we may or may not need a safety. Maybe they really like Dane Belton as the strong, and then Minka's the free, so we may or may not need a safety. Kicker, I think we definitely need, unless Leggy Lenny just, kills it. That's our International Pathways player. So that's possible, in which case we don't need the money for that. I don't think, in my opinion, they think they need a linebacker or a center. So that's really where the roster stands now. But yeah, we're down to 10 million effective cap space. But like I said, we can create more at any time very easily. So you should never really worry about cap space. So that's really where we are. So, um, I guess I'll put in another plug for old chemtrails. If you're not signed up for chemtrails already, I would go to, if I were you, I would go to frankiefromflatbush.substack.com. You could read all these articles, making tight ends sexy again. I mean, who doesn't want to read about sexy tight ends? I mean, come on. For whom the bell and bowls. We got an article on Ben Bowling. Who's Ben Bowling, after all? And how's it going to help the Jets? What about the media there? Are they finally changing their tune on the Jets? What about Cade Klubnik? Overlooked gem or overhyped bum? Well, we take a look at it. And so forth and so on. What about this Jets player profile? D'Angelo Ponce, cornerback. What's he all about? I heard nice things about him. What about Geno? Got a couple of articles about old Geno and the Gene offense. So lots of stuff here for your reading pleasure. And I'd check it out if I were you. Support the independent media if you hate Rich Cimini and Zach Rosenblatt and Connor Hughes like many of you think you do. Well, why not support the alternative? Frankie from Flatbush.substack.com. Is there a Lenny Krieg article in the works? Did I do an article on Lenny Krieg? That's a good question. I think I might have already. No, I did one on Pascal Akeji. That's a guy that most of you don't know who it is. Oh, I did do one. We already have it, Joe Mike. Jets player profile. Leggy Lenny Krieg. The long and winding road of Leggy Lenny. Can the Berlin Blitzkrieg take up where the folk hero left off? Article by Frankie from Flatbush. It's already here, Joe. This just goes to show you why you should be subscribed, and it doesn't cost you a dime. This is the man right here. Oh, Lenny. And it doesn't cost you anything. You could learn about all these people. What about Pascal Akeji? Can he do anything? What about Leggy Lenny? But, Frankie, I'm writing about all the great things that need to be written about that these motherfuckers who work for ESPN and The Athletic and all these highfalutin places, these millionaires who make all this money writing these stupid articles. I'm writing articles, and it's essentially for free. You can choose to pay money if you want to. It's totally optional, but you could choose the free option. But you want to support, independent media? I'm here. Like, it's right here. That's why we started this blog, to give a spotlight to things that the regular media is not going to give you. Nobody's going to do an article on Leggy Lenny, especially when he hasn't done anything. Right? So this explains it all. Path to the NFL, special teams look how long of an article this is. Nicely done by me. I'm here to help. Chemtrails got all these articles. Coaches. I mean, you want to know about Carl Dunbar? Here he is, the effervescence of being, Carl Dunbar. How a D-line coach can be transformative. How about the globe-trotting run stuffer? Do you know much about David Onyemata? Well, if you read this article here, you would, because it's an interesting story. He has a very interesting story, David Onyemata does. Really good player that we have. Nobody talking about David Onyemata. They really should be. He's a good run stuffer. Do we need to stuff the run? Yeah. The Glen Fence. What to expect in 26 from the AGD. Multiplicity, schematic fluidity, and the art of making the complex simple. How about that? Dreaming of Cam Jordan. I've been talking about Cam Jordan since March the 20th. That was 2 weeks ago. Here's an article about Pascal Akeji, the long shot. Can a former rugby winger become the next Jets bargain pass rush terror? Who else is writing about Pascal Akeji? Tell me that much. Tell me that much, Joe Mike. Yeah, you got to go through the archives, bro. What about going through the archives, Joe? You forget about the archives? There's archives. What about that? What about the archives, Joe? You forget about that? Sometimes you got to go through the archives, you know? Figure it out. The Mougey mystery. This man is not the sidekick we used to know. All sorts of great articles here by me. Yeah, some of you may not realize how great of a writer I am. I'm actually a very, very good writer. Yeah, karate, we're getting our schematic fluidity finally, karate. We're finally getting it. I'm so excited to see how it works out. Hopefully good. But I am more excited for this season than I have been. Like, I started really following the Jets. Some of you may remember, I kind of started on the Green Bean show. You know, Green Bean brought me on Thursday, thick of it, if you remember. Some of you old timers. And that was in COVID times. That was the Robert Saleh era. And I started getting my channel going and so forth and so on. And so it was really the end of, it was when we drafted Zach Wilson. We got rid of Sam Darnold. We had the Sam Darnold debates in the Jet fandom at that time, if you remember. You know, should we keep him? Should we get rid of him? What should we do? And then, so we made the decision. Joe Douglas made the decision. All right, trade Darnold, get Wilson. And so every year, you know, it was Wilson, and it was hoping. It was hoping Zach Wilson's good, hoping we have enough around him, hoping this, hoping that, right? And then in the early days, the defense was terrible. I knew it was going to be terrible because the players weren't good. And then we stocked the roster going forward and got better. But Zach Wilson never did. So then we got rid of Zach Wilson and we went for Aaron Rodgers. And then there was hope about the old man Rodgers bringing us to glory. And then four snaps in, his Achilles snaps, and that ends that. And then, you know, hoping he could be good the next year, coming off an Achilles at age 42 or whatever it was. But this year, so all that is what is always like a hoping. This year, I feel very good about Geno Smith. Now, again, there's a 10% chance he just falls apart. I have a hard time believing it, but it's possible he just stinks now. Age 36, fell off the cliff for a quarterback. That would surprise the hell out of me, especially considering I follow all these guys on Instagram, the only real reason to have an Instagram. So I have an Instagram in case you want to follow me there too, but the only real reason to have an Instagram is to follow the fellas and see what they're up to because they all post it on Instagram. And Geno Smith's down here near Miami when he's not up at the facility in Jersey. He's down here working his ass off. He posts all these workout videos. He's working out with, guess who? Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, the young fellas. And he's doing all these crazy ass workouts, you know, so he's not like he's sitting around eating bonbons. And some of you may not remember what bonbons are, but you know, so I don't think it's a physical thing. I watched them all last year. It wasn't a physical thing. It was the O-line was caving in every 2 seconds. What do you expect him to do? And he had nobody to throw to. And he threw to all these people, and they couldn't catch the fucking ball. One of his interceptions was Austin Gentry with his cement hands. He throws him a perfectly good pass, a check down. Gentry with the cement block hands can't catch it. How do I catch? I don't know. I went to Boise State. They didn't teach us nothing over there. All right, well, and he knocks it in the air, and the defender comes along and says, "Get out of here, kid," and takes it, and that's an interception. Well, that's on Geno Smith. So it's shit like that. He made plenty of catches and plays too, Gentry, and he's a fine player, but You know, so what am I supposed to think? He threw for 3,000 yards on the worst team in the NFL. That means he stinks? I think that means he's pretty good, actually. So, I don't know, man. But that being said, so I think Gino's going to be good, and I think the defense, we're going to get our schematic fluidity karate, and I think we're going to get our Aaron Glenn 2024 defense that he had with the Lions, because he stocked it with the right kind of players and talents and coaches now with Bowling and Dunbar and the rest, and himself calling plays. We're getting our schematic fluidity. We're going to get good quarterback play. We had a top 10 running game last year, yards per game, normie stats. And now we improved the left guard position. We brought everybody back, and we improved the quarterback and the receiving options and made our tight end room deeper. How's all this not going to help the running game? We already had a top 10 running game without a quarterback. You know how hard that is to do? So Gino, if he just plays average, we're going to have a top 10 offense. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to inform you. I really believe that's going to happen. Well, maybe not. I could be wrong. I don't know. What do I know? All right. Well, let's put out a last call for comments and questions. Last call for comments and questions on this Memorial Day Sunday. It's Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to everybody out there. Happy Memorial Day to all the fellow veterans out there. And, so let me know if there's anything else you guys want to talk about. Otherwise, we'll call it a day. And we should get some news this week. We'll do a Friday night hang, of course. We do a Friday night hang every Friday night at 6 p.m. Hang out, talk about whatever's on people's minds. And then we'll come back with Coffee with Frankie. But I expect us to get some kind of news this week. Players should be talking to the media. Should be something coming out of that. Maybe there's a few transactions, minor ones. So we'll have to see about that. And so that should take care of the content for the week. And otherwise, I'll see you guys when I see you. We'll see you Friday night, and we'll see if there's anything else that requires an emergency live stream. And if so, we here at FSPN will do so. So thanks for joining. Have happy Memorial Day weekend. Have fun with your families. Don't drink too much. And I'll see you next time.